going to be looking at Ville over in Italy, in Tivoli. But before we look at that, we have to have a look at Adrian's villa. Adrian, of course, who made Adrian's Wall in the UK. And it's just such an incredible place, this villa, because you've got sculptures of Mars, the god of war. You've got incredible prototypes for the Pantheon, as you can see by the picture, and the oculus coming down into the Pantheon. And it's massive, it's just incredible. Herringbone patterns on walls. We've got the stone pine, Pinus pinea, that beautiful sort of rounded pine that you get in pesto and things like that. So we're going to have a little look around here, and then we'll have a look at Ville d'Est, which was built much later, around about 1550, by Piero L'Agostino, and it was built for a Cardinal Ippolito. So we'll have a look at that as well. Okay, see you in a little while. So in this first garden we can see a Roman villa with an atrium in the middle, surrounded by a peristyle court. That's with the pillars running upwards, the peristyle court going around it. And you can see on this one that we've got the walls which would have frescoes, paintings to remind them of their Italian homes. Also that you'd have plants such as box, the big Monterey cypress, Cypress sempervirens of course, and there would be plants such as Acanthus mollis, bear's breeches. Particular slide we can see the mosaic floors, these small tesserae floors, all beautifully done in lots of different patterns. And then after that we can see Pegasus the horse. They didn't mind having mythological beasts and statues and busts of Roman gods, or even a bit of Greek mythology. And you can see in this one we've got a big pool, and that would be maintained by an aquarist who looked after the water feature and the box hedging, and would be looked after by the topirists. We now move to Tivoli, and this is Adrian's villa, and you can see here's a map of Adrian's villa, and at the bottom there you can see number 3. You've got the Pexili, the big kind of area of water there, and as we move round, come to number 7, the Maritime Theatre. This is where you would relax, where Adrian and his wife Sabina and his lover Antonianus maybe relaxed. So we've got this area called a canopus, and in fact one of the statues is Canopus from Greek mythology. And it's interesting that Adrian went to Egypt and on his travels, so this has got Egyptian sort of connections as well, with like a water running through it, and even sort of crocodiles and things like that in parts of it. Herringbone patterned walls out of small bricks. Obviously concrete was around, so there's lots of concrete and underground features, lots of sort of archways and areas where the slaves would run through. So they would have like a lower area to sort of enter into the place and carry stuff in and out. Whereas there'd be a higher path for the more noble sort of emperors and his family. You can see some upright, sort of nice, sort of fastigiate planting here. And then as we move on, you can see we go into this sort of other areas where there are domes and exhedras and all sorts of things. A lot of these sort of places, there are prototypes for the Pantheon, which is incredible. This one was supposedly a prototype for the Pantheon. And you can see in this one there's sort of more mosaics, slightly rougher mosaics in tile work on some of these paths. And now we're in the Herculean. So this is a Roman city, as was, and of course Mount Vesuvius erupted and totally wiped it out. This is an area where they've got different sort of artifacts that were covered by the larvae from Mount Vesuvius, and they've sort of preserved it because it was so fast that it engulfed the whole area that it actually sort of petrified things and actually preserved them. So as we go into the next slide, you can see here a sort of a plan of the towns, again straight lines, grid system, vineyards of course, very prominent in the gardens there. Again, lots of mosaics as you would expect on the floors.
You can see the pillars there around that vineyard where the peristyle court would have been. And then as you prepare to go into the baths, sort of areas to wash just before you go into the baths, and the male and female were kept separate. So you'd have your Roman bath here. As you can see, a nice peristyle court that would have been nice open area, and then the streets there and then water being fed into the houses. And then it'd even have underground sort of training grounds for the Greeks as well, big swimming pools for them to train. Now we move to the sort of Middle Ages. So the last Roman soldiers were ordered to leave in and around about AD 410. And then at the end of that, Britain was being attacked by the Picts and the Scots from the north and the Anglo-Saxons from the sea. The Romans had built forts to defend the coast, and Adrian's Wall defended the north, where people retreated either to monasteries or castles for safety. And very often in these sort of castle areas there was sort of wildflowers. The ladies had little walks where they could walk around the wildflower areas, and we start to see that. We also see a lot of self-sufficiency occurring in monasteries, Franciscan friaries. You can see here this again, a lot of different sort of plants growing in this friary from bulbs, but typically most of the sort of abbeys and friaries had to be self-sufficient. They had to grow their own vegetables, they had to grow their own fruit, flowers, medicinal plants. And when we get to sort of gardens such as Ville, you can see here, I know it's slightly different now, but lots of sort of vegetables grown on the bowers, on the edges are rose bowers. There would be vineyards. You can see there is one running down the top of the picture there. And there would be medicinal plants for healing. There would be the Lenten pools, of course, stocked with fish, ready so that they could have them. So in this peristyle court, here we go, Trachycarpus fortunii. We've got roses. Look at this lovely little water feature at the end with the Franciscan monk there at the back there, and the gargoyles at the base. And we've got the cycad there, which female, actually you can see the fruit at the base there. Male and female are on separate plants on cycads, and really is quite beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Just look at that. So now we come to another fantastic garden called Ville d'Est, and this was built in the 16th century for Cardinal Ippolito, 1509 to 1572. And as we enter, you can see these beautiful paintings as you go in. Some of them are biblical, and others are just fresco type of landscapes. And some of the decoration in the roof is quite amazing with the shell work as well. But there's lots and lots of paintings as you go through. Frescoes are very prominent in Italian gardens. So this is part of the Renaissance now. We're looking at an incredible garden soon with all the water features, but this is just as you go in. So quite impressive. And so as we go into the garden, sort of panoramic views, and we start to go in and see some of these incredible water features. Here's the 100 fountain. So the 100 fountains. So in this picture you can see the fisherman's ship. This is like to depict a canal created by two water flows representing the Tiber and ancient rivers. This references the Roman Catholic Church. And above it we would have had a sort of a more classical feature, which would have been the Rometta fountain at Ville d'Est. In this particular slide we can see the owl fountain, and on the sides of it are the apples of Hesperides, which were taken by Eris, and one of the tasks that Hercules had was to retrieve them. So after the sort of owl terrace, we move and we can get a good long shot here of Neptune Fountain. You can see it's quite magnificent, and there's just some incredible kind of tufa rockwork fountains around, which at the moment aren't running.
So this is the Neptune Fountain. Neptune, of course, Poseidon, god of the Mediterranean Sea. Look at that, incredible power coming off the, all fed by a river. That's all fed by water coming off the mountains coming down. Incredible. All natural water. And it ends up going back into the river below.
So this is the oval fountain, fantastic shape and just beautiful the way it spills all the way around that sort of curved lip of the oval fountain.
So this is the organ fountain, and we're just waiting, and hopefully at 2:30 those doors are going to open and we'll get music played naturally with water, all hydraulically engineered, Renaissance music.
So we just look over the terrace and see the different canals there. The garden was created at Bicton, and you can see there's a cutaway there showing a bit of borrowing from the landscape, still very formal, still very classical in its style. And then we move over to Alhambra, just to sort of pick up around about the 1200s, the Alhambra Palace, general relief with its superb architecture. And as you go around the gardens of Alhambra, this is a Moorish one. So the Moors were a tribe that moved up through sort of northern Africa into Europe. And gardens of Portugal and Spain particularly have this influence. And you can see here in this particular slide, the court of the lions here. The lions are just all around that fountain. And you get this lovely sort of the roofs, the way that you've got this sort of pan-tile type roof or bambino tile, but fantastic architecture. And then this beautiful little water feature made up of a sort of a square with little curve pieces off each of the sides of the square to make that lovely little fountain there. And of course you've got this fantastic rill with water jetting over into the rill. And then another garden, of course, that was created around about the sort of 1500s at Hampton Court was a sunken garden. This was built on the site of that garden. Whether it was like it, we don't know, but we've got this sort of a sunken area with formal hedging, formal planting around, as you would expect at that particular time. So that was at Hampton Court. And then you've got this one at Little Morton Hall, Elizabethan garden. So round about the in the 1600s, just turn of the 1600s, we've got this Elizabethan garden where you've got a knot garden, a simple knot garden, which was viewed from a mount. So you have to have a mound or a mount to view down into the garden to see the intricate patterns or shapes. Otherwise, it's not very good. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the gardens, just sort of going into the Dark Ages, some of the Dark Age kind of features, and then out of it. And you can see when you came out of it at Ville d'Est and some of the other gardens, it's still got a lot of the influences of Roman Italian style. Okay, see you next time.